Alrighty, y'all. Today we're going to be making a really simple project. This is going to be some little decorative dish towels, and you see some I've got finished here. And these are really easy to make, and let me tell you, if you're a seasoned seamstress and you're used to making stuff like this, you're going to look at this and go, oh, that is so simple. But let me tell you something about sewing for beginners. When I got my first sewing machine, I was terrified. And I just tried to dive right into these big projects. The first thing I think I tried to make was a dress for my oldest daughter. And it was a hideous disaster. But the good thing about starting with small projects like this is it's not so much the project as it is getting used to your machine. A sewing machine is kind of like a car. They don't all work the same. They don't all run the same. They don't all feel the same when you're behind the wheel, so to speak. So starting off with little projects like this, if you're a beginner, is a great way to get to know your sewing machine and get rid of that fear. I always had just a terrible fear of sewing over my fingers, which I've done a couple of times over the years. One time was really bad. I wasn't paying attention. I had company and was trying to sew at the same time and talk to my sister-in-law, and just sewed right through my middle finger. I put it under that needle and it went all the way through. It split my nail, and there was a bruise on the back of my finger. It almost went all the way through. So it hurts and it does happen. But if you're careful and you start off small so that you know how that machine runs and you get used to how it works, you'll get more confidence and you'll be able to do bigger projects. So this is a great idea for beginners. And I'm going to show you step by step how to make this dish towel. But I need some coordinating fabric first of all. It's not going to take much. You can probably do this with fat quarters, because these dish towels generally run about 15 inches wide. So you're not going to need a really wide piece of fabric. But I just went through my scraps container that I have and got a bunch of different scrap fabrics that I could cut my pieces out. And you want to cut a piece about 2 inches longer than you need it. So you're going to want to do a fold over on the sides here, and I'll show you with this one the way I did this one. I did them several different ways and tried to figure out what worked best, what came out neatest. And so I'm going to show you the one method that I did. But you are going to need to cut it a couple of inches wider so that you can do that fold under or fold around, so that it doesn't have raw edges there. And then the width just depends on you, how big of a band you want to make. I did mine about close to 5 inches. And that's going to be folded under right here at this bottom part of the towel. But up here I left it raw because I was going to sew over it with this trim, and I didn't want too much bulk. So, you know, if you like the way mine looks and you like that width, do it about that width, which is about 5 inches by plus 2 inches of whatever you get the measurement for your towel. And they may be different, so, you know, make sure you measure your towel first. Don't go by my measurements, because it may be slightly different. And I've acquired most of these towels at the Dollar Tree, and they're pretty good quality. I like them. But I went to Walmart and got a 4-pack for, I think it was, or was it a 5-pack? Yeah, I got a 4-pack for about $3.82, I think. So it kind of came out cheaper, and I like the quality of these dish towels from Walmart better. But they didn't have a big color variety, so I had to go with they had white with green stripes and then solid green towels in the pack. So that's what I went with. That was all the color they had. They had like a huge rack of it. But anyway, and then I have some things that I already had in my stash here. This was an old roll of trim that I've had forever. Couldn't even tell you where I got it, but probably at a flea market. And I used the last little bit of it making one of these dish towels. And I have some little shabby chick flowers that I bought by the roll on Etsy. And these are the kind that they have the net batting, and you have to cut them and then burn the edges of the batting. So, and I'll give that link because I love this seller. She sells all kinds of little trim and stuff, and she is a stay-at-home mommy with the cutest little kids. And her prices for her actual items is a little tiny bit higher than some other Etsy sellers, but her shipping is more fair. And she's just a nice gal. I've ordered from her a lot. So I'll put the link in there. And if you guys want some of these shabby chick flowers or some cute little rhinestone button trim or something like that, or some of that colored elastic to make baby headbands, go to her site and order from her because she is just a sweetheart. And then I had some, this is like 94 cents at Walmart. It's 3 yards of lace trim, and that was 94 cents, so that's a really good deal. And these are like from my stash. This is some vintage trim that I have that I think I bought in a Ziploc bag with a bunch of other trim at a yard sale. And then I have this rickrack, which is vintage. You can tell by the packaging and everything. I haven't even opened it yet, but I might use it for something. And then I have this whole bag of stuff that I've collected over the years where I would buy little bags of little bows and things like that, and I've just got it out so I can add it to the things. And this I've had on this roll forever. Couldn't even tell you where I got it. Probably at Walmart like 10 or 12 years ago. Probably going to use it. Okay, and another thing that I did that I have not added to any of my towels yet is I decided, since what I'm going to do is I'm going to give these to friends as gifts for Valentine's Day, I cut out some from my scrap fabric, a bunch of little hearts, some bias tape that I used in some of these. And okay, so I've got my towel here and I've got my piece pinned onto this, and I've picked out the trim that I want to add to this, and I decided I wanted to add one of these little hearts, and it's going to have a raw edge. I'm going to sew around these, sew this on with the raw edge showing, but that's how I want it. And then underneath it, before that, I'll be putting this trim on here and probably a line of it on the bottom. And now that I've got all that worked out, I just need to start putting it together. So the first step to putting this together is on the back sides. I'm going to pin the one side that I'm not sewing just so it doesn't move. And I'm going to lay this flat and sew a line close to this edge here. And then I'm going to come over and remove the pins and do the same on this side. And that will secure this piece to the towel. What I'm doing is lining this up so that this little middle part where the seam is going to be made through the foot is lined up close to the edge of this piece of fabric. I don't want to do it too close to the outer edge of the towel, because what's going to happen is it's going to start moving around and getting bunched up when I go to sew the other things on. So all you need is one line close to the raw edge of the fabric here. Okay, now I'm on the other side of the towel. I'm going to set my presser foot down, and then I'm going to take my needles out. So the next thing I want to do is I want to take this trim, and I'm going to take this pin out that I've got in the middle here. I'm going to lay it out with just a little bit folded over and go all the way across the towel with it on the top edge of this fabric. And then I'm going to pin it in certain places, and then I'm just going to sew across it to keep it in place. And you do want that line to be neat because it's going to show through. I'm going to try to get right up at the top edge here, just so that it tacks the fabric down and it tacks the piece of trim onto the fabric. Okay, so now you see I've got my trim pinned down. Now I just want to stitch it onto this. I've got the part of it folded onto the back. Again, I have my machine set on medium speed, 2.5 stitch length, lightweight fabric. The tension is between the 6 and the 5, so let's go. And then we're going to do the same thing with the bottom. I'm just going to add the same trim to the bottom because I think it gives it a more nice, delicate, feminine look. If that's not what you're going for, then don't do it that way. So all I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to take this trim and cut it with a little bit of it where it'll be over the edges so I can go around it. And I'm going to pin it to it, and then I'm going to sew it. Okay, with this bottom one, I'm going to sew kind of in the middle here because I don't want to have to sew 2 lines, and I need to close this bottom up. But if I sew it too close to the edge here, this may get folded down and, you know, during washing or something, and then it's just going to not look as pretty. So I'm just going to stick to the middle, and even though this has little holes in the middle, it'll stay. It'll stay in place. So my machine is on the same settings as the first time. I haven't changed anything, so let's get started. What we want to do is I want to add my little hearts, but first I need to sew this small heart onto the big heart, and then I'll sew the big heart onto the towel. And I added, on the big heart, I added a piece of fusible interfacing just because I find when you do little appliques like this, putting the interfacing on it makes them look so much neater. They don't bunch up. It keeps it flat and stiff so that you can sew around it without it making a big old mess. So I'm just going to sew the little heart on after I press it because it looks a little wrinkled. And I'm just eyeballing where I want it to be. And I have my machine set on 3.0 stitch length, and I've got it on lightweight fabric and medium speed. Tension is between the 6 and the 5. So I'm just going to go right along the edges of this little heart. Okay, so there you have it. I've got the top heart, the little heart stitched onto the big heart. Now I just need to figure out where I want to put this big heart. And I'm going to fold the towel and just kind of pinch up at the top with my finger so that I have a mark for where the middle is. And I see that the middle is kind of right in between these 2 places, and I'm going to take some chalk and mark it in case I lose it. So I just put a little chalk mark right there in the middle. Want it to go like this? Do I want it to be straight up like that? I think I do. So I'm just going to put 1 pin through the middle. You don't want to pin this up everywhere because it's going to mess you up. And I'm going to start at the bottom. Oh, sorry. I'm going to start at the bottom edge of this heart, and I'm going to do a tiny little back stitch. That's very careful. And I'm actually going to turn my machine down to low speed because I want to be very careful with this. There's just no do-overs in this one. So I'm going to go all around the edge of the heart. And also putting the interfacing on it will keep it from fraying too much. Although I think a little bit of fray with something like this is kind of pretty. So if you don't want it to fray a lot, you can use the fusible interfacing and it'll keep that from happening. If you want to get all fancy with it, you could do a heart and turn it and press it with 2 pieces of fabric. But I think that's just a waste, and it's going to be hard to get it perfect. So here we go. So now you see I've got my little heart sewn on there, and I think I'm ready to finish this up with this adorable little rose. I'm just going to hand stitch this little rose into the middle of this heart right here, or maybe I'll do it up there. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think I'm going to do it right there at the peak of that little heart. And that's just a simple little hand stitch, and I'll show you guys the way I do that to get started on it so it's nice and secure. First thing I do is I take my needle, thread it, and I knot this up really good. I mean, I wrap it around my fingers a couple of times. And what I'm going to do first is sew through the little rose because I want to make sure that it's on there good, and this is the easiest way to do it. So I'm just going to make a couple of passes through the flower. And then what I'm going to do is where I'm going to place it, I'm going to go through, and I'm not going all the way through to the back of this towel. I'm just going through this rose. I want to draw it in a couple of times. And then once I've got it in the fabric, I'm going to go back, start going back through the rows. You want to make sure you pull it secure, but don't break your thread, because you get so mad. I get really mad when my thread breaks and I'm in the middle of something like this. So I'm just kind of passing it through the fabric and the rows at the same time. If you don't know how to do that, just very carefully ease it through, making sure that you're passing through both the fabric and the rows enough times that this is going to stay secure when it's washed. Okay, so once you've got that on there nice and secure, you want to take your needle and thread and you're going to knot it. And the way you do that is you go through this fabric and you get, once you get a loop about an inch wide, you want to go through it a couple of times. You get close. You don't do this when it's a big old loop of thread. And then just for good measure, I like to put my needle through the fabric somewhere so that it's got a nice long tail on it, and then I pull before I cut it so that that thread goes back into the fabric. I cut really close to the edge and I cut the heart. You don't want to do that. That's not what I meant to do. Usually it works, but I was trying to see. And that's okay. It's okay. So anyway, there you go. And here's what you can do when you're gonna send it to your friend or whatever, give it as a gift. You take and fold these middle pieces together. You fold it to where the middle part's showing, flip it over like this, get all the strings off, and then you present it like that. So that just looks so dainty and pretty. And I like the contrasting colors, you know, the green with the pink trim on it, and I did a lot of them that way. I have a blue one with pink. I had a tan towel that I got, one of the Dollar Tree towels, and I actually put some coffee fabric on it, and I thought that was really neat. I like the way that looks. If you got a coffee lover, that's a really good idea. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this little tutorial, and feel free to go to my Facebook page. You can send me a message with a picture of your project in it, or you can put a picture up, but it'll have to be approved first, so don't panic. Don't send it to me 20 times. If you if you can't get it on my page, then you know that I had to change my security settings. So anyway, that was my point. That's it. Peace, y'all. Bye bye.